Welcome back to what? Episode 130 of Coach Quip. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today we're talking about magic.
I love magic.
He does. He really does.
I love magic.
But we're going more specific today of just magic. We're going to be talking about the magic of time-based workouts.
I love this magic too.
It's all good magic. All magic is good magic. So if you've ever looked at our website or been a part of our run club, our tri club, you will see, especially for running programming, we write all of it in minutes, not miles. We write everything as time-based. So whether it's speed or strength or tempo or endurance or long, that's a big pivot that we've had over the last 3 years, and it's something that we've really leaned into and frankly, I think, mastered on a lot of levels. And we love it, but we also want to share with you what the benefits are of doing so and why we as athletes and why we as coaches love it so very much.
When did Edge switch over to time-based, or was it always time-based?
No, that's a great question. We were probably split more evenly the first couple years. Mm-hmm. And I would also say that our pace card was a little bit more stacked, like it was a little bit more restrained. Mm-hmm. And as we started to expand that pace card in both directions, that's when we kind of made the switch. It started most heartily, though, when COVID was happening, because so many people were coming back into fitness, not really knowing how to restart, and we wanted to make it scalable and approachable. And so it was one of the things that came out of the Edge Coaching Consortium calls, which all of our nerdy coaches get together. It's amazing. It's my favorite call all the time. And we talk about, what's going down. And especially during COVID, there were some very, frank and pointed discussions of where athletes are at and how we need to meet them where they're at and rebuild them better. And we realized pretty quickly that time-based was the way to go. And it just kind of stuck. And now we've just gotten good at it, but also figured out ways to make them really fun and engaging and really different, just so that everything seems always really fresh and always effective.
Yeah, time-based training is so effective, and it's so great for our larger groups. So we are going to talk about time-based training in terms of running, specifically in our run club, but also this can be applied to our tri-club workouts and our strength class workouts, because our strength class workouts are time-based as well.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these reasons and benefits also apply there.
It's also just good relearning for me as an athlete. I obviously do all of these bets. If you know me, you know that I do run bets and push-up bets all the time, and I love them. I love winning them. I've only ever not won one. I know, I'm kind of psycho about it. But I'm doing one right now, and I'm surprised that the app hasn't come up with this sooner. It's always been mileage-based, and they're doing one right now that's time-based. And it's funny because my long effort this week is 70 minutes, and I'm like excited about it. And it is even for that format for me. When I coach a session, obviously I know it's time-based, but for me to have to follow something time-based and hit just a completely different target, it's more joy having it go green.
Yeah, so that's a great segue, I think, into our benefits. So in our bonus miles here, we're going to talk about the benefits of time-based training and why it is so magical, so stick around. All right, benefits of time-based training, starting off with number one, alluding to what you just mentioned, it is fun. It's a fun new metric. So when we shift from miles to time, it is a new target, and it can kind of be a whole new world, right? Because a lot of how our outcome, turns out is based on how you're feeling on the day.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a pretty exciting way to measure success. So it is a new way to feel successful in different ways, and it's less of how would you say it? It's less of a mental
bleep.
It's less of a mental fuck. Hell, it's less of a mental fuck because you can focus on something that is really tangible to you. Like 45 minutes is a tangible thing for most people. Like, we've existed for 45 minutes in different spaces in our lives. You've had class as a high school student that lasted 45 minutes, or a workout class. You know what 45 minutes feels like. Where if it's a number on miles, that can be, I don't know, for some reason we internalize that number differently. It's heavier, yeah. Exactly. And depending on how you're feeling that day, if you're feeling sluggish, run down, like you need an easy recovery run, just seeing that number can be daunting. So flipping it to minutes instead of miles is a way to sort of scramble your brain on that, and just a fun new way to see what your body can give you in that time period.
I do. I love it. I love the green. The green is better. It's more fun with that metric. Number 2 is one that we sort of alluded to in the beginning, but it's an equalizer. Everyone finishes at once. And this has been such a big change up for us over the past now several years. But always know that coaches are aware, athletes are aware, because they all share the same sentiment. Nobody wants to finish last. The reality is nobody gives a fuck. We already said it once. We might as well say it twice, right? So nobody cares that anyone finishes last, but none of us want to be that person that finishes last, right? And it really alleviates that because everyone begins and ends at the same time. So as long as we continue to present that of like, hey, we're all beginning and ending together, that fear dissipates because nobody is going to be the last person. No one's waiting around for you because we're all finishing at the same time. I also love it because in a session, or even if you're running with your friends and you have the same workout and your different paces, it's just a better finale and a better energy. Again, you're not anticipating that like, I'm going to stand around or I don't want to be the last person, them waiting for me. It's just a better high five, finish, let's go. And then I know that we're going to get into this a little bit more, but it's also easier to plan because you know how long it's going to take, right? It's not like, well, if the wheels fall off, on this 3-mile run, it's like, no, it's 30 minutes. We know it's going to be 30 minutes out and back.
Yeah, I did a group run on Monday. And
Baby's first group run.
Baby's first group run with Edge right here. And it was so cool to see how it worked out. It was 40 minutes, so 20 minutes out, 20 minutes back. And, it split into 2 groups, so everyone had somebody to run with, and we all met up right on time, which is like truly magic, right? Yeah, as it works out, like it actually does work out. So that was so cool to start together, to do our easy warm-up together, and then to finish together and have the high fives and the photo, and just like feel that sense of camaraderie and social recovery that happens afterwards, where everybody just finishes on a high because we all got the workout that we needed that day.
This is going to be I'm reading a book on birds, people. Just finish it, pass it to another Edge member. But I think about like flocks of birds that you see, right? So like if you see a big blob go out, we'll have some that are like real far up front, and then we have others that kind of fall off the back, or some that take the wide route, and then eventually at some point they all kind of come together and congregate again before moving forward. And that's always how I envision, especially like our out and backs or loop courses, as we have this kind of exchange of like the flock dissipates and then comes back together, and it's always again based around that time. But it also means I can use a whistle, that should be the 7th one. Wait a second.
All right. Well, number 3 is that your body remembers the moving time, not the miles.
We should say that again.
Yeah. Your body remembers moving time in minutes, not the number of miles that you've done.
That's huge. I feel like we could say that 100 times as coaches, and it still wouldn't be enough.
Yeah. So this is how the longest run translates to your marathon training in terms of long run versus minutes and us capping it, right? So I know this was a thing that we did in recent times, starting to add in max moving time.
Yep.
And we got a lot of questions from athletes about that, right? Because there was this feeling like, am I doing enough if my mile number, which was the metric that they were using for success in that workout, doesn't match what other people do?
Right.
But the truth is, it all evens out.
Yeah, it really does. And what we know is that let's just take the marathon example, right? Because it is usually like the biggest beast that we come up against this. But I want to hit X amount of miles. If we do, so fun fact, when we do these big aerobic deposits, it takes 3 weeks for that fitness to settle in. Full stop. That's why there's a 3-week taper, right? Mm-hmm. That's why there's a 3-week reverse taper after your big race too. However, when we go longer than 3 hours, and for some people it's 2.5, but we use a 3-hour metric at Edge, our body actually degrades from running to a point where it can't repair as well. Mm-hmm. So if we are more conservatively paced runners and we're running 3 hours and 40 minutes for our long run, we are in danger of overtraining and not being recovered in time for our race in 3 weeks. That's a big problem, right? So by effectively capping it on that day, what we're doing is allowing the fitness to be able to be used. Now, people are like, but I'm going to be a 5-hour marathoner. I want to run for that. Okay, hold up. I'll give you a solution. This is going to be a little bit of an aside. But how you roll with that is you run the day before, the day after, and your body actually remembers the 24-hour period as your total time. That's how ultra marathons are trained for. They're trained for in what we call sandwiches, where you have a one run one day, a long run the other day. We add those up, right? And that becomes, like a 50K, which is 31 miles, 10 miles on Friday, let's say 20 miles, pretend I'm talking about time-based. Yeah. Your total time, or your total is about what the race is, but it's over 2 days. So that is the way you would do it. But in one deposit, we really, from a road marathon standpoint, we don't want you moving more than 3 hours at a time. And because your body really remembers that, just respect it. Number 4, scales to pace card. Minutes scale to your pace card. This is another reason why it's great for groups, because if you're a 3-hour marathoner and I'm a 4-hour 40-minute marathoner, the minutes will scale to the paces that we're hitting, right? So a more conservatively paced runner is going to cover less miles, and a runner with more faster pace, maybe a little bit more efficient of a form at those faster speeds, especially if we're talking about a speed run, you're going to cover more. So it automatically kind of helps you scale to accommodate as well for that wear and tear.
Number 5 is that time-based training helps to keep us safe. So for those exact reasons about capping our time, we are limiting the load on our bodies. And I think this is the piece that, and this is sort of the second way of us saying this, but this is the piece that people struggle with the most.
Totally.
Is feeling like if they do time-based training, they're going to be unprepared for their race, which, say, is a marathon, is measured in miles, right?
Right.
So it's that conversion that needs to happen, but the whole idea here is keeping us safe and preventing injuries, or limiting our injuries, or making sure that our bodies hold up, because the whole goal of a training cycle is to get you to the starting line healthy. And if we are going over our time of training and putting ourselves into that position that you just mentioned of being past what our body can handle and recover from, that's going to be a problem. So time-based training is amazing for helping to limit limit injuries and keep us safe.
I also love that when it's time-based, we are more likely to scale our paces. So it also helps with wear and tear, especially when we're in those like big build peak week type scenarios. Because if we see a training plan and we're supposed to go 7.5 miles, we're going to gut out 7.5 miles. But if we see 65 minutes, because we don't feel that pressure to have that watch beep, right, we're a lot more likely to go maybe more aerobically and have a more conservative overall mileage, but a better quality run, which is only going to help you reduce that injury, because you're going to be able to recover.
Yeah, I think that's so true for like long runs or recovery runs, endurance runs. If it's time-based, right, you can scale your effort. But also I'm thinking about in terms of our speed and interval runs, when those are time-based, if I had to do a 6-mile tempo versus a, 45-minute tempo, like those are not my paces equating, but I'm just like thinking about in terms of time. My brain does certain things to time versus miles, because
Totally.
a lot of my athletes will second guess themselves in those speed intervals to think, can I hold this pace for 6 miles, right? But if they're thinking about it in terms of time, they know that they can gut out 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so that sort of translation, I think is also helpful on the top end of speed, and it's also helpful, as you said, slowing us down. Yeah.
And for everybody wondering, how do you know it works? This is where getting nerdy with your tech can actually help a ton. This is another aside. I'm just driving all the trains off the tracks. So if you work with a personal coach, a lot of times they'll look at things like total stress score, or even things like, what your average heart rate was, just to make sure that it is, you're putting in an appropriate amount of effort according to, what the workout or the intention of the workout is. But you can look these things up as well on your own, Garmin files or Coros files or whatever it is that you're using. And we encourage you to do so and compare them to prior seasons if you did switch from a mileage to a minutes-based workout. One, we know it works, but two, it's even cooler when you see the numbers playing out. And last but not least, Number 6 is it helps with calendar planning. So we alluded to this a little bit, but we know how long the workouts will take. And this has been like a cool shift for us, right? You know, I love to save a shower, right? So let's talk about Monday nights for a second. We're switching in our current season. All of our intensity runs are going to be, or we call them strength runs. It's a speed run, are going to be on Mondays. They're going to pivot between AM and PM, and our PM ones. Coach Chris's Ass, Arm, and Abs class is from 6 to 6:45 PM, and then right away at 6:45, that speed run happens from 6:45 until about 7:30. But because we know that it's a 45-minute run, you're not going to be here. You better not be here till 9 p.m. We close at 8. But the whole point is that you know what you're getting into because we know how long the warm-up is. We know what the main set is in terms of minutes, as well as the cool-down. My one asterisk is if Coach Worm is coaching, chances are you're going to have a solid 5 to 10-minute buffer in the first part of that run where he is giving some amazing speech, and then you'll head out the door. So just add 5 to 10 to those sessions.
It's so shady.
But true.
But
Coach
true,
Worm,
but true.
we love you.
But true. And yeah, you can't beat the motivational speeches. I love this one for my weekday workouts too, just like knowing if I have to slot in a run, knowing that it's going to be an hour is perfect because then you can plan appropriately. Whereas if it is mileage based, again, you're not sure how that's going to shake out, especially in the mileage based ones if there are rest intervals.
Yes.
Right? So then my brain starts to sizzle so that I'm in miles, but I have minutes in rest interval, and it's all out the door. So this is making it streamlined and easy for you in terms of planning as well.
I feel like we've covered some serious magic.
Yeah. And yeah, don't forget this magic also equates into our cycling workouts here in this room, as well as our strength classes. All of these are being done by time-based, and for all of the reasons of keeping folks together, to keeping us all finishing together, knowing exactly what you're going to get. There are so many benefits to our time-based workouts that we hope that you will check out. So come on through.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Ment. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.